Back in 1931, Albert Einstein, the name synonymous with genius, was asked to contribute to a book called Personal Philosophies. The editors wanted the century's greatest minds to share their personal beliefs, their insights about life itself. But what Einstein wrote, well, it shocked everyone. Because he didn't delve into physics. He didn't even mention relativity or quantum mechanics. Instead, he wrote about something far more fundamental. He wrote about why you were born. And his answer, it was so simple, so direct, so utterly different from what most people believe, that even today, almost a century later, most people have never even heard it. Einstein said there's one reason you exist, one purpose and one meaning to your life, and if you miss it, everything else you achieve is worthless. Now, before I tell you what that is, I need you to understand something. This isn't just philosophy. This isn't abstract thinking. This is Einstein, the most rational mind in human history, telling you exactly why you are here. And once you understand his answer, you'll never see your life the same way again. So, let me set the stage first. The year was 1931. The world was in the grip of the Great Depression. Millions were unemployed. Banks were failing left and right. Governments were collapsing. People were desperate for meaning, for purpose, for some reason to carry on. The publishers of Personal Philosophies approached Einstein because they knew his words carried weight. Whatever the great scientist said would be read by millions. Whatever wisdom he offered would shape how people thought about their lives. Einstein could have written about science. He could have offered technical solutions to economic problems. He could have remained safely in his comfort zone, his domain of expertise. Instead, he chose to answer the question that every human being asks at some point. Why am I here? Let me start with how Einstein began his essay, because his opening words reveal everything about how he viewed human existence. He wrote, and I quote, "Strange is our situation here upon earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose." Read that again. Strange is our situation. Einstein, the man who understood the very fabric of space-time, found human existence strange. Not the cosmos, not black holes, not the curvature of the universe. Human life itself was the mystery that puzzled him most. We come for a short visit. That's how Einstein saw your life. Not as some grand drama, not as some heroic journey. A short visit, brief, temporary, a flash of consciousness in an infinite universe. Think about what this means. Einstein lived to be 76 years old. He published his theory of special relativity at 26, his theory of general relativity at 36. He won the Nobel Prize at 42. Yet, he called all of this a short visit. Because in the context of the universe he studied, even a long human life is barely a blink. And we do not know why we are here. Einstein admitted this openly. The greatest genius of the modern age confessed that he did not know the ultimate reason for existence. This is remarkable humility from a man who had solved mysteries that baffled humanity for centuries. But then, he said something crucial. Sometimes we seem to divine a purpose. Sometimes we sense it. Sometimes we feel it, even if we cannot prove it. And Einstein spent the rest of his essay, explaining what that purpose is. Here's what most people expect. They expect Einstein to say something grand, something cosmic, something about understanding the universe, or advancing human knowledge, or achieving great things. But that is not what he said. Einstein wrote, "From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know. That man is here for the sake of other men." Read that carefully. Man is here for the sake of other men, not for himself, not for his own happiness, not for his own success or achievement or pleasure. For other people. This is Einstein's answer to the meaning of life. You were born to serve others now. Before you dismiss this as obvious or cliché, understand what Einstein is actually saying, because he's not talking about charity or volunteering or being nice to strangers. He's making a claim about the fundamental nature of reality. Einstein believed that the separation between you and other people is an illusion, a persistent, convincing, powerful illusion, but still an illusion. This belief didn't come from nowhere. Einstein had spent decades studying the work of Baruch Spinoza, a 17th century philosopher who argued that all of reality is one substance. There aren't many things in the universe. There is one thing appearing as many: God, nature, the universe, you, me. Everything that exists is all expressions of the same underlying reality. Einstein called himself a disciple of Spinoza. He kept a portrait of Spinoza in his study. When asked about his religious beliefs, he consistently pointed to Spinoza's vision of cosmic unity, and this vision shaped everything Einstein believed about human purpose. In a famous letter written in 1950, Einstein explained this more fully. He wrote, "A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feeling as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness." An optical delusion. That's what Einstein called your sense of being a separate individual, the feeling that you are you and everyone else is other. The experience of being inside your own head, looking out at a world that is not you. Einstein said this is a delusion, a trick of perception, an error of consciousness. He continued, "This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. A prison." Einstein called your sense of self a prison. It traps you inside your own concerns. It limits your care to just a few people. It blinds you to your true nature. And then he said something that changes everything. He wrote, "Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. This is why you were born, to break free from the prison of self, to expand your compassion beyond the illusion of separation, to recognize that you are not an isolated individual, but a part of the whole universe, temporarily experiencing itself as you." When Einstein said you were born for other people, he wasn't giving you a moral instruction. He was describing a metaphysical fact. The separation between you and others is not real. When you serve others, you are serving yourself. When you harm others, you are harming yourself, because there is only one thing here, appearing as many. This is why Einstein wrote elsewhere, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." Not because altruism is unvirtuous, not because selflessness is morally superior, but because the self you think you are isn't real in the way you think it is. Living for others is simply living in accordance with reality. Let me tell you how Einstein came to this understanding, because it wasn't abstract philosophy for him. It was a lived realization. Einstein was famous for his absent-mindedness. He forgot appointments. He neglected social obligations. He was sometimes rude, without meaning to be. He seemed lost in his own world. But those who knew him well tell a different story. They describe a man who was acutely aware of his connection to others, a man who felt the suffering of strangers as if it were his own, a man who could not ignore injustice, even when it cost him dearly. When Einstein was a young man in Switzerland, he and his friends would discuss philosophy. Late into the night, they called themselves the Olympia Academy. They read Spinoza, they read Hume, they argued about the nature of reality. It was during these discussions that Einstein began to develop his sense of cosmic unity. He saw that his physics and his philosophy pointed in the same direction. The universe is interconnected. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything affects everything else. When the Nazis rose to power, Einstein could have stayed quiet. He was the most famous scientist in the world. He could have protected himself. Instead, he spoke out. He renounced his German citizenship. He became a refugee. He didn't do this because he was brave. He did it because he could not do otherwise, because he felt the suffering of the persecuted as his own suffering, because the illusion of separation had weakened in him. Einstein once wrote, 100 times every day, I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received and am still receiving. 100 times a day, every day. Einstein reminded himself of his debt to others, not occasionally, not when it was convenient, constantly. He understood that everything he had came from others. The food he ate was grown by farmers, the clothes he wore were made by workers, the language he thought in was created by generations of humans before him. The mathematics he used was developed over millennia by countless minds. Einstein saw himself as a node in a vast network of giving and receiving. He was not a self-made man. No one is. Everyone is made by everyone else. And this is why serving others is not optional. It's not extra credit. It's the basic requirement for being a conscious participant in reality rather than a parasite upon it. Now let me tell you something that most people do not know about Einstein. His belief in our interconnection wasn't just philosophical, it came directly from his physics. When Einstein developed his theory of relativity, he discovered something profound. Space and time are not separate. They are woven together into a single fabric called space-time. What seems like distance is actually a relationship. What seems like separation is actually connection. Two events that appear separate in space and time are actually part of the same continuous reality. The universe is not a collection of separate things. It's one thing, manifesting in different forms. Einstein saw the same truth in human beings. We appear separate, we feel separate, but we are expressions of the same underlying reality. Just as waves appear distinct, but are all the same ocean. This is not mysticism, this is physics. Einstein reached the same conclusions as ancient spiritual tradition, but through mathematics and observation, rather than meditation and contemplation. When he said, "The separation between you and others is an optical delusion," he meant it literally. Your eyes and brain create the appearance of separation, but at a deeper level, there is no separation to be found. Consider what modern physics tells us. The atoms in your body were forged in the hearts of dying stars. The oxygen you breathe was released by plants that lived millions of years ago. The water in your cells has cycled through countless other organisms before reaching you. You are literally made of other things. Your boundaries are porous. You are constantly exchanging matter and energy with everything around you. The idea that you are a separate, independent entity is simply not supported by the evidence. This truth has profound implications. If you are not truly separate from others, then competition is ultimately pointless. If you are not truly separate from nature, then destroying the environment is self-destruction. If you are not truly separate from future generations, then living only for the present is short-sighted to the point of madness. Einstein saw all of this, and it filled him with a sense of responsibility that went far beyond what most people feel now. If you are still watching, you are different from most people. Most people click away when they hear something that challenges their self-image. You stayed. That tells me you want to understand, not just be entertained. If this kind of content matters to you, if you want me to keep revealing what they hide about the greatest minds in history, the super thanks button is how you say, keep going. Every click tells me that truth still has an audience. Let me tell you what this means for your life, because Einstein was not just philosophizing. He was describing a practice. First, it means that your pursuit of personal happiness is self-defeating. Einstein wrote explicitly, "To make a goal of comfort or happiness has never appealed to me. A system of ethics built on this basis would be sufficient only for a herd of cattle." Harsh words, but consider what he's saying. When you pursue your own happiness directly, you are reinforcing the illusion of separation. You're strengthening the prison walls. You're making it harder to find the very happiness you seek. But when you pursue the well-being of others, something strange happens. The prison walls weaken, the illusion fades, and in serving others, you find a happiness that is not dependent on circumstances. This isn't theory. This has been confirmed by modern psychology. Studies consistently show that people who spend money on others are happier than people who spend money on themselves. People who volunteer report greater life satisfaction than those who do not. The happiest people in every survey are those who feel connected to something larger than themselves. Einstein knew this. A century ago, modern science has finally caught up. Second, it means that success, as the world defines it, is meaningless without service. Einstein wrote, "I am absolutely convinced that no wealth in the world can help humanity forward, even in the hands of the most devoted worker in this cause. The example of great and pure characters is the only thing that can lead us to noble thoughts and deeds. Money cannot save us. Power cannot save us. Even genius cannot save us. Only character matters. Only the example of people who live for others." Einstein was not naive about this. He knew that most people would not listen. He knew that selfishness dominates human affairs, but he also knew that the rare individuals who break free from the prison of self are the ones who actually change history. Look at the people we remember, not the wealthy, not the powerful. We remember those who served, those who sacrificed, those who put others before themselves. Their names echo through time. And while the names of the rich and powerful fade into obscurity, think about it. Can you name the richest person in the world in 1931? Probably not. But you know Einstein. You know Gandhi. You know the names of those who gave their lives for something larger than themselves. Service is how you become immortal. Third, it means that your suffering is not just yours. When you hurt, the universe hurts. When you heal, the universe heals. The boundary between your pain and the world's pain is artificial. This is not meant to minimize your suffering. It is meant to give it meaning. Your struggles are not private failures. They are part of a larger story. And when you work to reduce suffering, any suffering, anywhere, you are doing the only work that matters. Einstein experienced this directly in 1950 when he received a letter from a grieving father whose young son had died. The father was devastated. He had lost his faith in life. He wanted to know if Einstein, with all his wisdom, could offer any comfort. Einstein's response: "Here's one of the most beautiful letters ever written." He did not offer platitudes. He did not pretend to have easy answers. Instead, he wrote about the illusion of separation. He told the father that his son was not truly gone. The energy and matter that made up his body still existed, transformed but not destroyed. The love they shared was not ended, because love is a connection between expressions of the same underlying reality, and the grief the father felt was proof that something real had existed between them. This letter reveals something important about Einstein. He did not just think about the unity of all things, he felt it, and he offered that feeling to others in their darkest moments. Einstein was once asked by a young person, what was the point of living, given all the wars and suffering in the world? His answer was characteristically direct. He said, "The question why in the human sphere is easy to answer, to create satisfaction for ourselves and for other people. In the extra-human sphere, the question has no meaning." Notice what he said, for ourselves and for other people, not just others, not pure self-sacrifice. Einstein was not calling for martyrdom. He was calling for recognition that your satisfaction and others' satisfaction are not separate things. When you truly understand that you and others are expressions of the same reality, helping others feels as natural as helping yourself, because it is helping yourself. The apparent distinction dissolves. This is what Einstein discovered, not through meditation or mysticism, through physics, through understanding the nature of space, and time, and matter, and energy, through realizing that the universe is one continuous fabric, temporarily wrinkled into the appearance of separate things. You are one of those wrinkles. So is everyone else. And the wrinkles are not separate from each other, or from the fabric itself. This is why Einstein could write, "The true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained liberation from the self." Liberation from the self, that is the goal. Not the destruction of the self, not the denial of individuality. Liberation, freedom from the prison of isolation. The recognition that you were never really separate in the first place. And how do you achieve this liberation? Through serving others, through widening your circle of compassion, through reminding yourself 100 times a day that you are not alone, that you did not make yourself, that your life depends on the labor and love of countless others. Let me tell you about Einstein's final years, because in those years he demonstrated exactly what he meant. By the 1950s, Einstein was the most famous scientist in the world. He could have spent his final years in comfort and luxury. He could have accepted the endless honors and awards. He could have rested on his achievements. Instead, he spent his last years fighting for causes that had nothing to do with physics. He spoke against nuclear weapons, even though his own work had made them possible. He felt personally responsible for the destruction unleashed at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He could not rest while that danger threatened humanity. He advocated for world government and international cooperation. He believed that nationalism was another expression of the illusion of separation. Just as individuals falsely believe they are separate from other individuals, nations falsely believe they are separate from other nations. The cure was the same in both cases: recognition of our fundamental unity. He supported civil rights in America when it was dangerous to do so. He invited the African-American singer Leontine Price to stay at his home when hotels refused to serve her. He spoke at historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs. He called racism America's worst disease. Einstein understood that racism, like nationalism, was a manifestation of the delusion of separation. When you truly see that all human are expressions of the same reality, discrimination becomes not just immoral, but irrational. It becomes as absurd as your left hand attacking your right hand. When Einstein died in 1955, he was working on a statement supporting nuclear disarmament. His final act was service to humanity. The nurse who was with him reported that he spoke his last words in German. She did not understand German, so we will never know what he said. But given everything we know about Einstein, it seems fitting that his last thoughts were probably not about himself. What would the world look like if everyone understood what Einstein understood? What if everyone recognized the illusion of separation? What if everyone widened their circle of compassion? Wars would become unthinkable. Environmental destruction would stop. Economic exploitation would end, not because of laws or force, but because harming others would feel like harming yourself, because it is harming yourself. Einstein knew we are far from this world. He knew the illusion of separation is powerful and persistent, but he also knew that every individual who breaks free from the prison of self brings that world a little closer. So, you might be wondering, where do you even begin? How do you actually widen your circle of compassion in real life? Well, Einstein left us some clues, scattered throughout his life and his writings. Start with awareness. Remember, as Einstein did 100 times a day, that everything you have, everything, came from others. The chair you're sitting on right now, the phone you're holding, the education that even allows you to understand these words, all gifts from other people, most of whom you'll never even meet. Then, extend your concern. Notice carefully when you draw a line between us and them, between your group and outsiders, between the people who matter and the people who, apparently, don't. Every single line you erase weakens the prison walls, bit by bit, finally. Act. Service doesn't have to be some grand sweeping gesture. Einstein didn't save the world through superhuman deeds. No. He wrote letters to grieving fathers. He spoke up for the persecuted. He reminded himself, daily, of his connection to others. These small acts, repeated endlessly, add up to a life of true meaning. This is why you were born. Not to achieve great things, not to accumulate wealth or fame or even pleasure, but to break free from the illusion that you are separate, to recognize your true nature as part of the whole, to serve others, because in serving them, you are serving the only thing that actually exists. Einstein knew this, he lived this, and now you know it too. The real question is what you will do with this knowledge. Will you continue reinforcing those prison walls? Will you keep pursuing your own happiness as if you were an island, all alone? Or will you begin today to widen your circle of compassion? The choice is yours. But remember what Einstein said, a life lived only for yourself is not a life worth living. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. Now, I want to hear from you. Einstein said we are born for one reason, one, to serve others. Does that resound with you? Or do you think he was wrong about that? Comment agree if you believe Einstein was right about our purpose. Comment disagree if you think there's another meaning to life, something different. And tell me honestly, have you ever experienced that sense Einstein described? That moment when the boundaries of self dissolve and you feel connected to something larger than yourself? I read every comment and I respond to as many as I possibly can. See you in the next video.